everyone. My name's Daniel. I've spent the last couple of decades working in a tech space, and over the years, I've had the great opportunity to work and learn from some incredible people. This year, I've had the chance to attend my 20th college reunion, and it was a great moment for me to reflect, especially as I caught up with old friends and walked through some of the familiar halls. I couldn't help but notice how much has changed in the world around us. And so, some of the things that I've seen from the technology we rely on, everything's now wireless and interconnected, to the shifting priorities in our lives. So I thought it would be really fun to reconnect with former colleagues and shine a light on their journeys, the lessons they've learned, and some of the experiences that have shaped who they are today. Today, I'm really excited to speak with Carissa. Chris and I had the opportunity to work together 14 years ago at Initiative Media. And that was a very interesting period where ad agencies were starting to build out their digital media practices, and we worked on clients like TurboTax, just as they were transitioning from selling software and CDs, if you can remember that, and bringing that software into the cloud. And so Chris has done some amazing things. She's gone to expand her skill set and knowledge in marketing through her work at VaynerMedia, Omaze, and Mythos. And now she runs her own consulting firm, helping companies navigate the complexities of marketing and balancing her other full-time job of raising a toddler. So, hey, Carissa, how's it going?
Very good. Thank you, Dan, for having me. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
yeah, absolutely. I know it's been a while, but it's a pleasure to connect with you when I get a chance. And
Yeah.
it's just funny remarking on how much has changed over this time.
Yeah, it's been 14 years. You just got married, have kids.
Yeah. We did it in that order, which is good. So I know it's been a little while, but one of the things that, just as an icebreaker, as someone who's been immersed in the world of marketing and
Mhm.
consulting, I think you've come across some really interesting products over the years.
Yes.
I'm curious, is there a product, whether it's for work or personal life or even parenting, that you find yourself recommending or using all the time?
Ooh. I think I might have one for each, but the one product that I use a lot is Firefly's AI.
Okay.
It is a note taker, and in my job right now, I take a lot of meetings, and so I can't really be and then like trying to pay attention to what that person is saying. It's me really understanding what the core problem of my client is, listening, trying to get as much as possible. And a Firefly, I call her Frankie. Frankie the Firefly. Me and her are really best friends right now.
That's awesome.
She summarizes the entire call so I can like listen in, and it gives like just a top level summary of the action items that I need to do. So that is a big time saver for me. In terms of the other product that I also use a lot, it is a product that I it's called Opus, and it helps with when I'm doing personal branding. So this long form content piece that we're doing, if we need to cut it into shorter form content and we need someone to become our first editor to like find key top moments, that they can go through the entire video and then cut up like 10 different slices of video, and obviously don't cut and paste and publish. Look at it, edit it, make sure it makes sense, and then publish. But it really is a time saver on my end as well.
Yeah, that's amazing because when I think about these two products, they're relatively recent. I don't think we had a great note taking tool or transcription maybe like 5+ years ago.
Yeah,
So I
it
can
was me when
see,
I first
yeah.
started as at initiative. I was the note taker.
Yeah, we did it manually, old school.
I did manually. Yeah.
Yeah, at LinkedIn we use Teams, and so
Hmm.
it's been really handy. I'd be so curious to compare the quality, but it's nice having a tool that can transcribe so you don't have to spend all the time writing notes, but instead you can really think about what's happening in those
Exactly.
conversations. I haven't used Opus Clips, just being honest, but I've heard lots of great things where it just makes it easy to, again, make those longer clips bite-sized and
Yep.
digestible the way people like it today. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Time
that's
saver.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been a little while since we last connected, and I wanted to reflect a little bit. I know your first job out of college was at Initiative,
Hmm.
and I'm curious about your experience there now that some time has passed. So,
Yeah.
when you first started working? Like, do you
Yeah.
recall how you felt or what you were thinking at that time?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I joined at the time where social was becoming a thing. So Facebook first started, Twitter first started in 2008. I first joined in 2010. So it was such an interesting era of like going into digital media marketing. So I had no idea what it was. And it really did set the foundation to who I am as a marketer. So one, really honing in when we were working on TurboTax, looking at data and doing Excel sheets and doing macros and doing all these formulas and trying to figure out which ad is performing better. And I remember staying up late at night and like compiling all the data from all the different publishers and like making sure that we have that report ready to present to the client on a daily call. So every morning we had that report due, and I was like, okay, here's data, Dan, go present it. And I still talk about that experience because now I can look at data really quickly in any form and in any type of format. And I'm like, just give me the raw data and I can look at it really quick. And people are like, how? And I'm like, because I used to look at a lot of data, compile it, and make it make sense. And I think the organization of the data was also set within me in that experience, because if you don't organize your data, you don't know what you're reading. And so that's one thing that I took away from that experience that has been with me ever since that moment. The other one is client management, client comms. Like, how do you manage up, especially when I was trafficking ads back then,
Hmm.
and making sure it was live during a certain time frame, and learning like setting expectations, like saying this timeline isn't realistic, what do I do, instead of not meeting those deadlines. And so client comms is important, and also how to optimize and organize your data.
Yeah, I think that's those are some incredible learnings, and I think I've had some similar experiences along the way as well. You know, working in a bigger company like LinkedIn or even smaller companies, communication is a huge factor in terms of how you collaborate and work with each other. Using the word you used, expectation setting, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's really important because people have certain expectations of when you can turn things around. And if you don't do it, you know, people may not like it. But if you can set expectations, you
Yeah,
can help them understand when you can do it, or
exactly.
maybe even like flag the need for help. You know, because there's limitations. We're not AI yet,
Yeah.
but that's a lot of work. And I do want to say thanks. You know, I don't know if I ever expressed that much gratitude, but thanks for all that work. I'm
Of
sure it was a
course.
lot, especially when you had to do all that Excel work.
Yeah.
So shout out for Arthur
Yeah.
showing some of the ropes too.
Yep. Yeah, Arthur definitely was like, okay, here's a trick you can do. I'm like, okay, perfect. But getting into that one thing that I think is a game changer that I remember, it was you and Arthur who told me this. I was saying, like, I gave a stat like, oh, you improved by this asset improved by 34%. And one of you said, and so what? Like, what was the actionable insight to that? Like, what can we do with this that can help move the needle for TurboTax? And I was like, yeah. So when you have the data, it's not just saying it like, yeah, it improved by 34%, but like, yes, improved by 34%, but what are you going to do with it? Put your money, are you going to double down your money here? Are you going to take money from somewhere else? Do we need more money to improve to improve the campaign? What's not working and the why? And I see this across the board with people in the media world where they just say a statement and like, it did really well, but they're missing that why. And I always challenge them. I'm like, okay, dig a little bit deeper. And that's one thing, learned experience that I also got from you and Arthur.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll take credit for that one,
Yeah, you'll
but
take credit for that.
I think that's an incredibly valuable lesson in helping articulate what to do next. And I think it demonstrates your perspective on responsibility. You
Yeah.
know, it's not just saying, "Cool, I've crunched the data. I'm telling you what happened,"
Yeah.
but you're really thinking about what's next and how to make the situation or the media campaign or whatever it
Yeah.
is much better. So that's amazing. Thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
So obviously, that was kind of your first experience professionally, and you were
Mhm.
there for a good number of years, and
Yep.
I think it exposed us to a lot. Can you tell me a little bit about how your career in marketing and social media evolved over the years after that?
My God, you were talking about reflections earlier on, and I did my own reflection throughout my entire career. I've been in this world for 15 years. So I was like, okay, what happened in my career also? And I saw a pattern throughout my entire career where every 3 years I went into something different. And that tells something a lot about who I am as a person. I continue always wanting to learn something different. And so after initiative, I actually went to like pure startup mode, launched a wedding venue in Los Angeles with my best friend and her brother. They got some funding, so they were building it and they were like, we need help with marketing. And I'm like, perfect. But I went from like helping managing over $20 million to having a budget of $0. So I learned how to be scrappy here. And that was a really important time in my life of saying, okay, what platforms what key skills do I need to learn in order to get revenue for this business? And in the wedding venue, we had Instagram was a platform that was popping up then, and all these wedding professionals, because the platform was so visual, they were growing a following there. So all these like wedding photographers, wedding florists, wedding planners, they had around 10 to 20,000 followers on Instagram. And I was like, interesting. I need to find those people and I need to have them talk about this wedding venue. And so I did an entire micro creator campaign on Instagram where I said, hey, can you take a photo shoot at this wedding venue? And it was really modern and really cool compared to what was cool back then. And so they were like, awesome. So they did a photo shoot, and I was able to get those as marketing collateral to create the website, to also have content for my social, and to also create ads on Facebook. And so Facebook back then, people were like, how do you do ads? I'm like, I'm just going to learn it. So I YouTubed it. I learned it and I used those as ads and I got people down the lead funnel. And because of that micro creator campaign, all of these photographers and florists posted it on their Instagram, and we were able to build up a good following. But at the end of the day, it's all about revenue. And I was able to generate over $1 million in bookings in the first year because of that micro creator campaign,
Wow.
and because I learned how to do Facebook marketing through YouTube. And so I did that for 3 years, and then after that, I went to VaynerMedia. I really wanted to learn around creative strategy and how do you create content for social, because I did it a little bit for that wedding venue. So I was able to be part of the TBS TNT client, and I oversaw creative strategy and also paid strategy. And then in that role, I was thinking through how do we build fandoms? How do you get people to talk about your TV show? How do you take an episodic, long form content like 30 minutes and make it into social content? And that was talking about meme culture back then in 2015. So it's really understanding who your audience is, how do you take this content, and how do you create it for particular audiences. And then, the fun part, like how do you do paid media? How do you remind people to watch the TV show? How do you remind people to stream it? How do you watch it on demand back then? So that was fun. And I did really fun campaigns. That was like a lot of fun of like, I created a Twitter bot where the character was an alien and you actually helped grow the alien into a baby alien to a full-on
Oh,
teenager
wow.
alien, and that was fun.
Yeah.
And then after that, I jumped after 3 years because I wanted to learn something different. In VaynerMedia, it's an agency, client side, and I wanted to have full brand control over like a brand. And so I went to a company called Omaze, And I was leading up their social team. The social team was a team of one, me. And so when I first started, they were at around 10,000 total social followers, but they were spending a lot of money on paid media. And so I was looking at the total followers, and I'm like, wait, there's the disconnect here. You're spending so much on paid media to drive sales, which is great, but we should usually see it convert to some social followers on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. So what I did, and this is my analytical brain talking, is I went to the paid media team and I said, "Hey, give me all your paid comments. I'll download it. Give me the CSV, and I will disperse it. And I will create all the data charts that I need to in order to understand like what is the sentiment of these comments and what are people asking for. Use that as knowledge, and then create content from it." So I looked over 10,000 paid comments and
Wow.
pulled out three core themes of what people were asking for that Maze wasn't hitting upon in their organic content strategy. So I had a creative team to say like, "Hey, creative team, we're gonna revamp this entire content strategy, and we're gonna serialize content now." And then we started to serialize content, and I was able to grow from 10,000 to 1.25 million in 10 months. And it's really honing in, like, again, like the analytical stuff that I learned from initiative, the scrappy part of like, I'll do it on my own and like figure it out. And then the other part is knowing like how do you talk to different audiences and what are they asking for and give it to them. And really know how to create content for each social platform. So
Yeah.
again, I did that for 3 years, and I also helped out with their integrated marketing campaigns as well. And then I got the bug to NFTs, and then the Web3 was coming out. This was 2020 or 20. It was 2020. And I was like, what's this NFT? New technology, right? So I was like, I think I want to go there. So Gary V, him and his team connected me to the founder of Marvel Studios, who was starting an NFT and a new IP. And I was like, oh, I love entertainment and I love NFTs. Let's see how we can merge things together. So from 2020 to 2022 or 2023, I did that and, helped sell an NFT. And I built a team from the ground up, and it was great. Unfortunately, I got laid off while pregnant, and so I was either like, do I get a full time job or do I freelance? And turned out freelancing turned out to be the best opportunity for me because I started my own business from it.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's quite a journey, first of all. I think you touched on so many different aspects of marketing.
Yeah.
I think with TurboTax, that was a great foundation because we started off with a lot of performance, a lot of DR. At the time, it was almost, I don't want to say it was spray and pray, but we had a lot of ad networks. We had a lot of social media. I think we were one of the first to do a lot in
Yeah,
terms of really trying to engage users.
we did the Facebook integration.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had that. We had MySpace for some of those old
Yep.
timers out there, where we had those music shows,
Yep.
and it was pretty unique in terms of what we were doing, or even trying to do a digital Super Bowl takeover. I remember
Yep.
that. So, but then moving into the social and creator space, it's pretty admirable. You spent some time just learning it by doing it, and then taking that to help some of these companies build out their strategy. But I think one thing I really align with and also appreciate in my own job too is you taking time to listen to the customers or the people or what they want to see. And that's pretty great because then you can build a content strategy that is more bespoke and hopefully more engaging to them at the end of the day.
Yep. Totally. Exactly.
Yeah. So, like you mentioned that you started your own consulting firm.
Hmm.
How's that going? I know there's been a lot. Are there certain challenges that you've experienced, or what's gone well, or what could be better?
Yeah, I officially launched in this April, and I was like, oh my God, when you start something new, I'm like, am I crazy? I turned down a full time job so I can go to this, and I had no idea what I was gonna do. So I was just like, "Hey, I'm gonna brand myself a marketing generalist. I'm gonna see, get connected to my network and see how to build out my portfolio." And in the first 3 months, every client was different, and that was exciting because then I could figure out like what do I want to actually do. And so one client was content creation for a nonprofit with thought leadership and like personal branding. Another one was lead generation campaign for a consulting company. Another one was like working for like a plastic surgeon who wants more leads to their company, but also like launched a supplement brand and launched a skincare brand. And so that's like a whole that's a whole different thing. That's e-commerce now. That's we're playing in the D2C space. And so all of these things added up and turned out to be an agency. Something that I didn't want to do. Like everyone's like, "Oh, so you're an agency." I'm like, "No, I'm not an agency." But I hired freelancers because as I got more clients, I needed to figure out, okay, like I can't do paid media execution anymore, especially on Meta. It totally advanced for when I did it. And so I needed someone who was familiar with the campaigns and knew how to do it. And like your email CRM, I did that before. I know the structure and how it works and how to do automations. But I don't want to spend time learning a new platform. I need someone who does know the platform so they can get it, can set it up quickly. So from April, I started, and now I have 10 clients. So it's going pretty
Wow.
well, but
Yeah.
I'm becoming an agency. So I'm rebranding actually agency. So my entire, again, reflection, right, of like trying to figure out like what do I want to do, especially with this clients, what is my goal for 2025. And one of the key things is I'm going to brand, hook, and anchor as a consultant studio where I play quarterback of saying, okay, let me figure out, client, what is your biggest problem? And let me help you solve it. And then I will assemble a team who is part of my network, who is validated. I worked with them before, who has 10 to 15 plus years of experience in their fields. And we will then problem solve your problem. And so every client is entirely different. Like one client, I am a consultant for them for their agency on how to get more clients. So like every client is different, and I love that because then it's not the same thing every day.
Yeah, that's
So
that's amazing. So you are an agency, but it's
yes,
almost like
I'm
a
calling
very
it a
modern one.
consultant studio.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's almost like it's a reflection of modern times because
Hmm.
you're pulling in the different specialists, almost like a
Hmm.
team of Avengers to
Yep.
do what's needed based on the client goals and needs. So
Yep.
that's awesome. Has the change and the rise of new technologies, we talked about AI a little
Yep.
and data analytics along the way. Has the rise of new technologies changed your approach or how you're thinking about shaping your company and the marketing that you're doing for clients?
Oh yeah. I've been looking on how, AI is there to scale you and how do you scale it. And so I recently read an article from Greg Eisenberg where he talks about you are the product, like the consultant is the product, and AI will be basically your service. And so basically, what I'm trying to figure out is how do I put my knowledge base into AI so it can do the work? But the experience that I've had for 15 years of like the ups and downs of like, oh, I effed up here, like this is what I learned from this, like that can never be replaced.
Yeah.
And so the high touch, the human like experience that I offer, it will never be replaced. So that's me, and that's what you're gonna get from my from working with me. And so I am all down with AI. So if I'm using Firefly to take my notes, if I'm using Opus so we can cut up videos quickly so we can get content quickly, if I'm using ChatGPT and training it to become my analyst, where I do a brain dump of like, okay, here's my thoughts on this campaign, now clean it up, or sending it the data and saying like, hey, I need you to act like my data analyst. What are the top performing themes? Give me the first draft, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's teaching AI to be my other arms and legs. And totally, if people are shying away from that, that's only on them. But for me, it's going to scale me even much quicker.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the beauty of what we're seeing right now. I think we're still finding and discovering those use cases of how it can help us even further, but there's definitely a lot of opportunity at the moment around that.
Yeah.
Changing gears a little bit, just a few more
Hmm.
questions, aside from all the work you've done in marketing,
Yeah.
you're running a business, and you're also raising a toddler, which is a
Yeah.
lot, basically
Yes.
two full-time jobs.
Yeah.
How have you navigated this experience, juggling the two?
Yeah. Not well. Just kidding. It's so I my son is about to turn 1 next week.
Ooh, congrats.
So of course I was just like, oh, let's have a baby and let me start a business at the same time. So of course timing wasn't the best, but it gives me flexibility. But of course, it's like each day is scheduled out to the T. One, just have dedicated time with my son, and then dedicated time to work, and then also to have some time with my husband as well. So I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's hard.
Yeah.
Especially when, and you know it too, when daycare viruses come up, which I'm learning.
Yeah.
And like he's building up his immune system, and of course I'm building up my immune system. Wow.
Yeah.
Parents with toddlers, kudos to all of you guys out there because it's hardcore. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you, like, the coming from my perspective, I'm running my own business. I don't have an actual team like to actually do the work. Like, I have the freelancers who are doing their work. My son got sick with
Mm.
roseola a week ago, and that's high fevers. He had a 104 fever for 3 days, and we were like, oh my God. And he didn't sleep well because he had a high fever. And so I had him miss work during the day because he couldn't go to daycare, and then I worked from 7 to 11 p.m. to catch up on work, and then he woke up during the middle of the night. So I didn't function really well last week,
Yeah.
and that was one of the key things where I'm like, man, I wish I just had a team
Yeah.
to backfill, and
Yeah.
just help me out. And that was one of the moments where I'm like, okay, I need to to prepare myself for future daycare viruses, and how do I gain the support that I need. And so that's where I'm like, okay, maybe I have to be more comfortable in becoming an agency and hire.
Yeah.
And so I got an assistant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's, first of all, I hope everything's better. I
Yeah.
think that's always hard. It's scary when they're small
Yep.
and they get a high fever. You're like, oh no, is everything okay?
Yep.
But they inevitably they recover and they
Yeah.
get better and they're stronger. And I like to think we're ourselves are also stronger for it, but it's a real thing, right? I
Yeah.
think it's tough. And I think on my end, what I've found is it's really just kind of giving yourself the leeway or just recognizing that it's okay to give yourself space to recover and take care of yourself
Yeah.
because nothing's perfect. And I think most people that work with you know that you do great work and people need some space. And if they care for you, they'll understand. So,
Totally.
yeah, yeah, yeah. My daughter's 6 and my son is 5. And so they still, go through these different challenges.
Yep.
And I think I'm still trying to cope. So we'll see how long that goes, maybe through high
And
school.
then they're teenagers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a whole different chapter.
I was kind of laughing for a moment though, because I know you're a twin,
Yeah.
right? And so I was like, oh, like your sons in your company are kind of like twins. They both came around at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe that could work itself into the name somehow.
Yeah.
last set of questions. You've been through a lot. You've gone on this amazing journey. If you were talking to someone who's just getting into university or getting out, and they're curious about the marketing industry, like what pieces of advice would you give them?
Ooh, learn as much as possible in every skill set in digital marketing. And I give that advice because when I first started in 2010, everyone in my age group went into their own field. So if you did digital marketing or digital media, paid media, you went into paid media and you rose up the ranks. If you went into email marketing, you went all the way in through email marketing and you went up all the ranks. So everyone that is at my level is like VP and president of that field, like copywriting, designing, video editing. So everyone went into their fields. But what I'm seeing right now is they reached a ceiling where they're like, okay, I want to oversee like growth marketing. So let's say growth marketing, but you only have email experience or paid media experience, you're limited.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you want to go into brand, but you only did, let's say, paid media, or you only did social media, or you only did PR. And you can't really do brand if you've been only in one singular department. And so that's why I call myself a marketing generalist, because what I learned from my experience is jumping every 3 years to a new skill set that I needed to have. I can jump anywhere, and that's why I started my own business, because I can help other companies who can't afford the big agencies to, hopefully afford me, and be like, okay, what channels do you need to be on? Amazing, cool, double down, use your paid media, and let's get you there. Or let's build out an email series because email is really important to you. Or let's build up a personal brand using social media. And so you have to know how each of the channels function to be a true digital media marketer. For you guys who are just starting, learn as much as possible. There's YouTube. There's like TikTok. There's every knowledge that you need to know available online. And you have the health and energy to stay up late at night and test, learn, and finesse your skills. And don't be afraid. Like, jump every year if you need to to learn a new skill from someone who has that experience, so you can learn from them, see how they do it, and be like, okay, cool, I now know how to do this. What other skills do I need to do? And so
Yeah.
that's my advice.
Thanks for sharing that. I
Yeah.
think I have a lot of thoughts
Yeah.
because we do live in this amazing time where there is so much information out there now
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube or TikTok or wherever that people can at least learn and understand, these different areas of marketing. Whereas I think when we were working together at Initiative, a lot of it was experiential. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, let's figure out how to add assets to this ad server. Let's look at this reporting and figure out what it means.
Yep.
And then I remember we would try to organize these lunch and learns so that we could share our learnings across teams,
Yep.
whether it's with like the Hyundai Kia team
Yep.
or us. And I think that those were still very interesting because then you saw like, oh, this is how they approach brand and
Yep.
this is what they do with the TV team or out of home. Whereas this is what we were doing, and we were doing a lot of interesting social things at that time.
Yep. Yeah.
And I definitely appreciate the message you're sharing around always learning and having the flexibility in terms of learning different things and just being ready for change because everything's changing very quickly around us. And I was thinking about, I don't know if you ever saw Jiro Dreams of Sushi,
Mm-hmm.
but he
Yeah.
had his son making rice for, I don't know, it feels like years, decades.
Yes.
And I was like, man, that's hard. He's probably the best rice maker. It probably tastes really good. But if he had to make something else, I wonder.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I agree with that. It's really important to have the holistic view of what you're trying to do in mind
Yeah.
and learning along the way. So
Yeah. Especially if you are a creative, because right now in the space, people are like, oh, I need a graph, but usually both of those things are separate, and there's not a lot of people that can do both. And if you can do both, you're going to be the most highly valuable creative person because you can now do two functions versus one. And obviously people are like, but you have to be specialized in order to like be like really good. You can be really good at two different things.
Yeah.
It's just you just have to like figure out like how do you want to market yourself as a marketer, and how do you get more business, and how do you grow in order to scale, and
Yeah.
having all these skill sets is gonna make you more marketable.
Yeah. Definitely a point of differentiation. So,
Hmm. Yeah,
well, I just wanted to thank you so much.
of
It's
course.
been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure for me to catch up with you to hear
Same here.
about, your personal life, your career journey, and I really want to appreciate you for sharing some of those lessons you've learned along the way.
Of
It
course.
helps everyone, maybe even saves people time as they think about their careers, all the way from running your own consulting firm to raising a family,
Yeah.
in parallel. It's really hard.
Yep.
So definitely want to wish you the best of luck with your
Thank
business and
you.
all the exciting things ahead.
Yay. Thank you.
Thanks.